Tonight, when the sun goes down, you'll flip a switch. Light floods the room. You won't even think about it. But for 99.9% of human history, that switch didn't exist. When the sun set, the world went completely dark. Not dim, not cozy. Dark. You couldn't see your own hand held right in front of your face. And modern humans almost never experience that anymore. But for over 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors spent roughly half their life in near total darkness. No candles for most of that time. No lanterns. Just a black sky, a river of stars above them, and whatever fire they could keep alive. So what did they actually do for all those hours? The answer changes everything we think we know about sleep, about stories, and about what it actually means to be human. Let's start with fire, because fire is the reason any of this was even possible. The oldest solid evidence of humans controlling fire comes from Wonderword Cave in South Africa, roughly 1 million years ago. But fire didn't just keep people warm. Fire completely restructured the human day. Before fire, our ancestors behaved like every other primate on the planet. When the sun went down, you found a tree, you climbed it, and you stayed completely still, because moving at night meant one thing: becoming food. Our eyes are genuinely terrible in the dark compared to the predators that hunted us. Leopards, hyenas, wolves, all of them could see just fine at night. We couldn't. Fire changed that equation, literally overnight. A campfire creates a circle of safety roughly 30 feet across. Inside that circle, predators won't come. Outside that circle, you die. That's not dramatic language. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have documented that people who wander away from the fire at night are measurably more likely to be killed, even today. But here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Fire didn't just protect people at night, it gave them something they had never had before. Extra hours? Think about what that means. Before fire, the useful day ended at sunset. That's maybe 12 hours in summer, as few as 8 in winter. Fire suddenly added 2 to 4 usable hours to every single day. And over thousands of generations, those extra hours quietly changed our entire species. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published a study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. She had spent years recording conversations among the Jew/Huansi Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last groups on Earth still living something genuinely close to the original human lifestyle. What she found was striking. During the day, about 80% of conversations were purely practical. Who's hunting where? Which plants are ready to harvest? Complaints, logistics, disputes over resources. Daytime talk was essentially just work. But at night, around the fire, the entire character of conversation shifted. At night, 81% of conversations were stories, tales about people in distant places, adventures, myths about how the world began, jokes that made the whole camp erupt in laughter. Wiesner argued that the fireside conversation is where human culture was actually born. The campfire was the original theater, the original classroom, the original place of worship. It's where humans first learned to think beyond the immediate moment and imagine things that don't exist yet. It's where we became us. But nighttime wasn't only about stories. Something else was happening. Something scientists only rediscovered in the 1990s. In 2001, historian Roger E. Kirch published a paper that quietly shook sleep science to its foundation. He had spent 16 years digging through historical records, and what he found, nobody expected. Over 500 references, spanning centuries, prayer books from the 1400s, court records, personal diaries, medical texts, letters written by completely ordinary people, even passages buried inside Homer's Odyssey. All of them mentioned the exact same thing: first sleep and second sleep. Before the industrial age, people did not sleep in one continuous block the way we do. They went to bed shortly after sunset, slept for roughly 4 hours, then woke up. They stayed awake for 1 to 2 hours in the middle of the night, then fell back asleep for another 4 hours until dawn. His wasn't insomnia. This wasn't a disorder. This was simply how every human on the planet slept for thousands upon thousands of years. And what did people do during that wakeful window in the middle of the night? Everything. A 16th century French physician actually recommended that couples conceive children during this period, claiming they would simply do it better. People visited their neighbors. They lay quietly and worked through their dreams. While the memories were still vivid, they wrote, they prayed. They simply rested in the dark and let their minds wander. A medical manual from the 1500s advised patients that the very best time for deep study and reflection was during what they called the watch, those quiet hours between first and second sleep, when the mind was calm and the world had gone completely still. Historians had been reading these references for centuries, but they kept translating first sleep as something else entirely, because they simply couldn't imagine that people had ever slept differently than we do today. The assumption was so deeply embedded that translators were literally mistranslating ancient Greek and medieval Latin to make it match their own modern experience. And then science confirmed what history had been saying the whole time. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health ran an experiment. He took a group of volunteers and removed all artificial light from their lives. For 1 month, they experienced 14 hours of darkness every night. Exactly what our ancestors would have lived with before fire extended the evening. Within a few weeks, every single participant drifted into the exact same pattern. 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours of quiet wakefulness, then 4 more hours of sleep. Nobody told them to do this. Nobody suggested it. Their bodies just did it on their own, as if some ancient program had been sitting dormant inside them the entire time, buried under centuries of artificial light, just waiting. Vare measured their hormone levels during that wakeful period, and what he found was remarkable. Their brains were producing elevated levels of prolactin, the same hormone released during meditation. During deep relaxation, participants described feeling peaceful, reflective, almost meditative. It wasn't just a gap in sleep, it was its own distinct state of consciousness, one that most people alive today have simply never experienced. So what killed it? The answer is simpler than you'd think. Light. In the 1600s, cities started installing street lamps. Paris was among the first, under Louis XIV, who wanted to reduce crime after dark. London followed. The night, which had always been a place of genuine danger, slowly became something you could navigate. Then came cheaper candles. Then gas lamps in the 1800s. Then, in 1879, Thomas Edison commercialized the electric light bulb. And within a single generation, the night as humans had known it for 300,000 years was simply gone. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. The word curfew comes from the French couvre-feu. It literally means cover the fire. In medieval towns, a bell would ring each night signaling everyone to extinguish their fires. Not primarily for safety reasons, because night was supposed to be dark. Night was when you slept. Night was when you were vulnerable. For most of human history, being outside at night was inherently suspicious. In many medieval European cities, walking the streets after dark without a lantern was actually illegal. Night belonged to criminals and to the supernatural. People feared it in a way that's almost impossible for us to truly understand today. And then we conquered it. We flooded it with light, and we called it progress. But here's what we actually lost. Modern humans are exposed to artificial light an average of 7 to 8 hours after sunset. That light, especially the blue light pouring out of our screens, suppresses your body's production of melatonin. Your brain genuinely cannot tell the difference between a light bulb and the sun. It fragments your sleep architecture. It disrupts a circadian rhythm that took millions of years to evolve. Researchers found that people who spend just 1 week camping with zero artificial light shift their melatonin cycle by nearly 2 hours. That's all it takes. 1 week without artificial light, and 300,000 years of biological programming quietly reasserts itself. We didn't just change when we sleep, we erased an entire phase of human consciousness, that quiet, reflective state between first and second sleep. The one Vare's subjects described as peaceful and almost meditative. It doesn't exist for most people anymore. Instead, we have insomnia, and we treat it like something has gone wrong with us. But what if nothing has gone wrong at all? What if waking up at 2 a.m. and lying there in the dark isn't your body malfunctioning? What if it's your body remembering exactly what it was built to do? For 300,000 years, your ancestors spent their nights in a way that modern science is only beginning to understand. They gathered around fires and told stories that slowly built entire civilizations. They lived in a darkness so complete that the Milky Way wasn't something you drove hours to a national park to see. It was just the sky. And every night, when they woke in the dark between first and second sleep, they lay there in silence and thought about their lives, their dreams, and the world they would wake up to in the morning. We traded all of that for a light switch, and most of us never even knew what was gone.